Hello, Tyler and Common friends. I just wanted to give you a quick update on some things that I've been thinking. This is the second time since the pandemic hit that I've felt the need to record a little video and send it out to a key group of leaders. My experience is that sometimes communication is a real challenge. Um, and so sometimes a video is an effective way to communicate with a group of people. Um, I wanted to just give you a little update on where I'm at and some of the thoughts that I am having when it comes to our work for justice under the auspices of the Episcopal Health Foundation here in Tyler, in this little group called Tyler in Common. And the main thing I want to say, or at least the first thing I want to say, is that um, I'm grateful for Stephen Firebaugh. Stephen has been meeting with me every Thursday just for an hour on Zoom, typically, um, sort of to keep me accountable and also just to sort of keep me on task to help me um, follow through on things that need to be done, and also to help me realize the sorts of things that I need to be doing. And I'm really grateful for that. Last Thursday, that's 6 days ago, he and I met, and he sort of forced me, very wisely, he forced me to really um, open my eyes and consider the sorts of things that are involved in forming a 501c3, because after all, forming a 501c3 is something that we have basically said that we would like to do at some point in the future. We know that there's a lot of spade work that needs to happen uh, beforehand in order for us to do that well, but nevertheless, that's something that we've basically uh, that we're coming close to committing ourselves to pursuing, I would say. And so Stephen very wisely forced me to sort of think about some of the necessary conditions that are involved in forming a 501c3, and that was really good. We talked about things like the need for a vision statement, the need for a mission, the need for core values, also the need to have a COO and a CEO and all that sort of stuff. And that was a really good conversation, although I must say I also found it fairly overwhelming and fairly, um, well, depressing. It's sort of sent me into a tailspin of, I'm not going to say depression, but I was a bit overwhelmed and really found myself questioning whether or not I have it in me to do what this work is going to take if we're going to do it well. And I think that that's wise. I mean, Jesus tells us to count the cost. And the truth is that this is important work. And it may be the case that if I am not willing to give a significant amount of time to this, or let's say if I'm not willing to make this the second or third most important thing that I do in all of my ministry as a priest, it may be that this is a fool's errand. And so I left that conversation with Stephen grateful for him and impressed with his wisdom, but also kind of overwhelmed and disturbed. I was so disturbed that I even had a conversation with my dad about it that night. And my dad really was encouraging me to sort of let this go, to tell Eric and Willie and other folks that I just don't have the time or the energy to dedicate myself to this work of justice through the auspices of Tyler in Common. My dad was really giving me that counsel, and I understand why. And I was a little bit open to that, but also it didn't feel right. I slept on it, and then the next day is when we had our little Zoom meeting with Eric and Willie. And I gotta say, that meeting was super encouraging for me. I don't know what it is, but there's just something about having meetings with Eric and Willie that always encourages me. It's almost like I get a whiff of the holistic gospel when I'm with them. And also just the wisdom and the love and the commitment that I heard in y'all's voices in Brian's voice, in Jeff's voice, in Stephen's voice, in Paul's voice. That was amazing to me. And so I just wanted to let you know how encouraging that meeting was to me. So much so that that I have decided to take a few more steps in the direction of intentionality with this work of Tyler in Common. And in particular, I've done two things. I've set aside 2 hours every week on Wednesday afternoon to focus on this work, to make it a real priority. And then secondly, I've stolen a page out of Jeff Williams' playbook, and I've really been looking for at least 2 things a month that I can show up for. And so that's why this last Monday, I was on a very racially diverse panel with a bunch of pastors in town. Brian Leitner was on that as well. And I just wanted to give you an update on that. So as of right now, I am encouraged in this work. I'm still scared. I still don't know what I'm doing. I still feel like this is completely unmanageable, but I also know that that's probably an indication that I'm right where God wants me. And then the last thing that I just want to share with you is I want to let you know where I think we are right now. I think where we are right now is that Jeff and Willie are going to talk to the not the One Human Race people, but the Project Curate people in Houston, to find a date for us to have our initial conversation with them. So this would be the Project Curate people and the Tyler in Common folks in East Texas. They are going to get with them, and we're going to try to nail down a date for that initial meeting. And then in terms of the 4 or 5 of us here locally, our job right now is to see if we can recruit some folks to join us in that initial conversation. And my thought is that if each of us could invite 2 people, that would be great. So if Pastor Leitner could invite a couple of folks from his church, if Dr. Witt could invite a couple of folks from Christ Church Downtown, I was hoping that Stephen could invite a couple of folks from Christ Church South, actually, and that Jeff could invite some folks from his network, possibly from Tyler Together. I was going to sort of fly solo and invite 2 or 3 folks. In fact, I wanted to share with you that one thing I did today, because remember I said that I'm setting aside 2 hours on Wednesday to focus on this work. Well, I did something today that I've been meaning to do for several weeks, and that is I drove past the business place of a man that I met about 5 or 6 weeks ago. His name is Juan Jose Bravo. He is an undocumented citizen from Mexico here in Tyler, and he's a real leader. This is a man who owns and runs a boxing ring in which he has dozens of young men who train in boxing. And that boxing gym is very close to my house. And so I met him about 5 or 6 weeks ago. He really struck me as a leader. And so I drove by there today. He did happen to be there. I gave him my card. I followed up with him. I got his contact info, and I asked him if he would be willing to participate in a conversation with us about justice for the people of Tyler. By the way, Dalila Reynoso told me a few weeks ago that he's a really good guy. And so that gave me the confidence that I needed to reach out and try to build bridges with him. So that's where I think we're at right now. I'm hoping that each one of us can invite a couple of folks. And then whenever we get a date from Eric and Willie, that we can have that initial meeting. Okay. So thank you for listening. I'm so grateful for all of you, for the work that you're doing, for the commitment that you have. We got to take this stuff one day at a time. And I am doing well today. Thank you, and thanks be to God.